Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Davidson, thank you for our discussion the other day. I really appreciated it and appreciated your statement just on the statute that the rural, unserved communities are going to be first in the infrastructure bill. My state has a lot of those. So can I just get a couple commitments to follow on our good meeting the other day to come up to Alaska to truly prioritize the unserved first, which is what the statute says, and to take advantage of this opportunity with the FCC, USDA, and other agencies that are really focused on this moment of trying to wire our country, certainly my state, which has the least amount of broadband connectivity in each state in the country.
Senator, I'd welcome the opportunity to see firsthand the challenges that you're facing in Alaska, and have my commitment to do that.
Good. And commitments on those other things we just talked
Absolutely,
about?
yeah.
Good. Ms. Son, I wanted to talk on a number of issues with you. But first, there's been some concern in this committee where the administration has put forward a nominee for something, then after the hearing and everything, so, oh, by the way, that person's going to be chair. The FTC is obviously the big example of that. We didn't know that. At least I didn't know that. Have you had any discussions with the Biden administration about being elevated to chairman over Commissioner Rosenworcel at all?
No.
Okay, good. Look, I'm going to be, I've noticed, again, it seems like one of the ways you get nominated for a position in this administration is if you have some really good, nasty tweets against Republicans, it's the way you get nominated. I mean, geez, the numbers are going through the roof. But you kind of take the case on this with regard to tweets that I find not only very troubling, I can go through the whole list, but maybe I'll just submit them for the record. You know, Republicans are racist, the usual BS. I noticed you purged your account. Did you do that for a reason?
I'm sorry, sir. I did not. I did not. My account's still up there.
Okay.
Trust me. People are picking at it, so it's definitely still up there. I did not.
Well, look, this is actually a really serious issue with regard to your nomination. And here's the reason. We're not just nominating you, you know, for any normal assistant secretary. The FCC has enormous power, and it has enormous power, particularly as it relates to free speech, particularly as it relates to liberty in our country. And let me just give you a couple. Fox News has had the most negative impact on our democracy. It is state-sponsored propaganda. That's one of your tweets, one of your many tweets. So how is Fox News state-sponsored propaganda? And is MSNBC state-sponsored propaganda too? Remember, this goes directly to the power you're going to have. This is not some kind of random tweet. Millions of Americans watch that news station. I happen to. I don't think it's state-sponsored propaganda. For God's sake, we needed a conservative viewpoint in America media, which obviously you don't like. So talk to me about state-sponsored propaganda.
Yeah, Senator, before I explain the tweet, I'd like to explain the context. And also, I would also like to remind folks that among my supporters are the two most...
You know how this committee works. I'm going to be respectful, but I need to interrupt.
Okay, please.
Because I don't have a lot of time. Just address the tweet. I don't need the context. I don't need to hear about your supporters. You are going to be in charge of regulating news agencies like Fox News, and you're calling them state-sponsored propaganda. How can you do that as an honest broker when you've already put out, you are also called that Sinclair Broadcasts, whether you called for the FCC to investigate whether they're qualified to be a broadcast licensee at all. You are clearly indicating your bias against more conservative news sources. And yet you are now up for confirmation of one of the most powerful positions in America on free speech. I think that disqualifies you completely. But talk to me about Fox News as state-sponsored terrorism, how they've had the, quote, most negative impact on our democracy, and then why isn't MSNBC state-sponsored terrorism? I didn't say terrorism. I didn't mean terrorism. I meant propaganda.
Yeah, Senator, I was tweeting during a hearing on Section 230, and where the point was being made that big tech companies were, the most harmful to our democracy.
How is, again, how is Fox News state-sponsored propaganda, and how has it had, quote, the most negative impact on our democracy? These are your words. I'm not.
Exactly. That was, as a public interest advocate, as part of my job, those were my words, those were my opinions, but they will have no bearing on how I would act if I'm confirmed as an FCC commissioner.
What about questioning the broadcast license? That would be your job of Sinclair Broadcasting. I mean, are you going to recuse yourself on anything relating to Fox News or Sinclair Broadcasting?
So let me talk about Sinclair Broadcasting. because
Actually, I think it's a good question. I just asked you, are you going to recuse yourself if
I-
confirmed?
Senator, I am talking with the office. I've signed an ethics agreement with the Office of Government Ethics. If there is any question about my bias, I will consult with them and see if I need to recuse.
Well, I think these tweets are clearly evidence of bias.
Senator, I respectfully disagree.
Really?
Yeah, because again, these were made, first of all, let me just step back on Sinclair, because I think it's really important to understand what I actually said. What I said was, and again, I was agreeing with Chairman Pai, who set the transaction for a hearing, because Sinclair, they alleged, the FCC, the Pai FCC alleged that Sinclair was not honest about its ownership of certain stations. So the hearing designation order was looking at Sinclair's dishonesty, it had nothing to do whether it was conservative or liberal.
But Fox News, what's your, I mean, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I know I've gone over my time.
I've been a little liberal today.
You
just
have.
Because we have so many members
I will-
and witnesses, but we're
I will wait for
approaching
another round or submit
Yeah, that'd
questions
be
for the record.
great.
But these are very, very legitimate
definitely
questions
want
and are
members-
serious.
When to
Thank
get
you.
members' questions answered.